You are the creator. You are in charge. It's based on the four unique human endowments of imagination, conscience, independent will, and particularly self-awareness. 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 It empowers you to say, that's an unhealthy program I've been given from my childhood, from my social mirror. I don't like that ineffective script. I can change. That's habit number one. These are habits of personal management principles of personal management. And the book is by, it's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Powerful Lessons in Personal Change, Destined to be the Personal Leadership of the Decade, and Achieve Success. Book is by Stephen R. Covey. So, principles of personal management. It says, things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things which matter least. And this is by Mr. Guthrie. I think it's German because there's a, I was raised in Kenya, in East Africa, and there's a Goethe Institute there. Goethe Institute there in Nairobi, Kenya. So principles of personal management. As I mentioned, I was born and raised in Kenya, East Africa, Afrika Mashariki, habari jambo, hakuna matata watu wetu. Wapendwa wote. CHAMGE Gongoi Missing Biga Bomet. I was raised in a province or county called Bomet in Kenya, in Kanoin constituency, Boita Wood, Kibera village, Kibera from community. Communities, families, lots of awesome families. Principles of personal management. Let's go over the principles. Here we have principle number 1 is you are the creator. You are in charge. Take charge of your own destiny. Number 2 is this one. It says, habit number 2 is the first of mental creations. It's based on imagination. Imagine what you imagine. It says here, the reason I'm reading this is because just imagine today is day number 112. 112 days that Canadian Simber in Nova Scotia, Halifax City, Canada, North America, has been in the house for 112 days so far. Reason is because whatever, so many reasons, but whatever, maybe. So let's look at this. This is habit number 1 says you are the creator. So create your own happiness, even if you are locked inside the house, even if you don't have much, even if you're rich, even if you're middle-class, even if you're homeless, even if you can, even if you're male, female, or whatever, in whatever vulnerable situation, in whatever powerful position, in whatever family, whatever culture, whatever heritage, whichever religion, whichever not religion, wherever, see, still, you are the creator of your own destiny. You are in charge. Take charge, number 1. Because you have unique endowments of imagination, of conscience, and of independent will, particularly self-awareness. can make good choices. You can choose to change. You can choose to be a good human being, making good choices. Number 2 is the first or mental. It is the first or mental creation. It's based on imagination. This is the ability to envision, to see the potential, to create with our minds. Think. Use your mind. Well, we use our mind for a lot of things. Some of them is just a lot of drama, a lot of this, a lot of the other necessary stuff. We can use our minds. What we cannot at present see with our eyes, and we create it. We create it in the imagination and conscience, the ability to detect our own uniqueness and the personal, moral, and ethical guidelines or philosophy or principles and practices within which we are, or you can say policy and processes within which we are within our soul. We can most happily fulfill it in your good soul, in your good mind, in your good spirit. In our good spirit, in my good spirit. It's the deep contact with our basic paradigms and values and the vision of what we can become. Habit number 3 then is the second creation, the physical creation. It's the fulfillment, the actualization, the natural emergence of habits. 1 and 2. It's the exercise of independent will towards becoming principle-centered. It's the day in, day out, moment by moment, doing it. Habit number 1 and 2 are absolutely essential and prerequisite to habit number 3. You cannot become principle-centered without first being aware of and developing your own proactive nature. You can become principle-centered without first being aware of your paradigms and understanding how to shift them and align them with the principles. You can't become principle-centered without a vision of and a focus on the unique contributions that is yours to make. Bet. So there's a bet somewhere. Bet with the foundation, you can become principle-centered. Without foundation, you can become day in, day out, principle-centered moment by moment by living habit number 3, by practicing effective self-management. That's what it's all about. Principles of personal management. And we are at effective self-management, practicing effective self-management. Management remembers. Management remembers. Always remember, is clearly different from leadership. Leadership is primarily a high-powered right brain activity. It's more of an art, A-R-T. It's based on a philosophy. You have to ask the ultimate questions of life when you're dealing with personal leadership issues. But once you have dealt with those issues, once you have resolved them, you then have to manage yourself effectively to create a life congruent with your answers. The ability to manage well doesn't make much of a difference if you are not even in the right jungle or mindset or behavior pattern or attitude. Attitude determines your altitude, how far you will rise up. And it's just not just rising up. It's just like exploring your jungle in your mind, in your thoughts, in your life, all the differences, all the quality, all the existential or existence issues, etc., etc. This also applies to relationships, to community, to family, to working in organizations with people, volunteering, just being a good community member, just being a good individual, or being a bad one, or being a greedy one, or being a greedy pig, piglet, or whatever type of personal choices in life. It's called the jungle of life. And George Orwell called it the animal farm, where there's all kinds of animals, and some pigs want to be more equal than others. And this creates the differences in society, in families, and in countries, and in territories, in kingdoms, and whatever part of the world, either locally or nationally or continentally or regionally or globally, internationally or worldwide, whatever way you want to look at it. Anyway, in this jungle we live together as one big beautiful human family, hopefully a caring one. But if you're not in the right jungle, it makes all the difference. In fact, the ability to manage well determines the quality and even the existence of the second creation. Management is the breaking down and the analysis, the sequencing and the specific application and time-bound left brain aspects of effective self-management or self-government or self-awareness or self-confidence. My own maxim of personal effectiveness is this: manage from the right, lead. And this is, I beg your pardon, I'm sorry, it says, correction, it says manage from the left and lead from the right. Manage from the left and lead from the right. In other words, people talk about the left people in society today. Left is considered to be like more caring, more humanitarian, more social based, more community based. It's more that's the basis. So manage from the left. This is all this community based and caring and social justice and human rights application, and that's left. And then you cross over from the human rights into something called leadership, self-leadership, and you lead from the right. So right is where it's family-centered, it's moral values-based, it is also where we protect the environment and family and children and all these things that we hold dear in society. All right, why is the reason we do this? Is because the power of independent will. This is the principles of personal management by Stephen. For highly effective people who practice 7 habits of highly effective people. These are powerful lessons in personal change. And that's for anyone that's destined to be a personal leadership potential of success, of the decade or the year or lifetime is Stephen R. Covey. It's a very good motivational book. It's actually the #1 national bestseller. All right. The reason why we manage with caring and compassion and loving kindness and lead from the right based on principles and maxims of personal effectiveness is because of the power of independent will. In addition to self-management, imagination, and conscience, it is the fourth human endowment, independent will, that really makes what? What does independent will do? It makes what? It makes effective self-management possible. It is the ability to make decisions and choices and to act in accordance with them. It is the ability to act rather than to be acted upon. It is the it's to productively carry out the programs we have developed through the other three endowments. The human will is an amazing thing. Time after time, it has triumphed against unbelievable odds. The Helen Kellers of the world give dramatic evidence to the value, the power of the independent will. But as we examine this endowment in the context of effective self-management, we realize it is unusual, not the it's usually not the dramatic, the visible, the once in a lifetime up by the bootstraps. That's what they used to tell the African people in the US that were slaves, and they were trying to get independence and freedom and rights and all this. They would deprive them of basic needs, basic food, basic shelter, basic this, basic the other. And then they would tell them, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. But the same people doing that had privileges and government support and police support and all this other support, and they were hanging people on the trees, and then they would wear hoods and hide their faces and hide this. And today they hide behind computers and phones and government and police and military and all these other things called corporations and whatever else. They hide behind it, and they still practice what Naipaul is an Aboriginal writer, called savage behavior. We just pretend to be nice, and we tell the ones we're bullying and taking advantage of, hey, it's up to you to develop yourself. It's up to you to go to school. It's up to you to figure out yourself. And that it's based on something called what? Based on something called privilege, potential, and something else that's called opportunities, creating personal and opportunities. But some people have the opportunity and have the environment that benefits them, and whoever they're favored. So because they are favored, they become very weak, and they become very ignorant and arrogant and greedy and corrupt pigs. George Orwell said, we live in an animal farm where some pigs want to be more equal than others because of the benefits that they get from this something called bullying of others, telling them, hey, pick yourself up by the bootstraps. and make an effort to just make an effort, and then they try and they're like, oh, I made an effort, and they try, and the people that were saying pull yourself up by the bootstraps, step on the straps or step on the necks and step on the whatever else, and they think they are stepping on the vulnerable and the black person and the brown person and the gay person and the woman and the child and the youth and all these other people that they're trying to take advantage of. Who is this trying to take advantage of the other? I don't know, just some misbehaving people, a few here and there, or whatever type of idiots they are in society. Because why would you take advantage of somebody that's your brother or sister or your fellow human being? It's like, they don't look like me, I don't give a shit. Well, they're fellow human beings. You're you taking advantage of them, you're taking advantage of yourself and harming yourself. Brilliant people. But anyway, let's continue with this. It says, so let's retrace our steps. We realize, let's go back here. But as we examine this endowment in the context of effective self-management, we realize it's usually not the dramatic, the visible, the once in a lifetime, up by the bootstraps effort that brings enduring success. Empowerment comes from learning how to use this great endowment in a good way, somehow, somewhere, somewhat, in a good way, in decisions we make every day, each and every moment, every year, in the relationship, in the family, in the society, in the organization, in school, and in every other aspect of society and life throughout lifetime and generations. The degree to which we have developed our independent will in our everyday lives is measured by our personal integrity, accountability, and transparency consistently. Integrity is fundamentally the value we place on ourselves, on yourself, on myself, on our families, on our community, and what we hold dear, our objectives, our goals, and whatever else. It is our ability to make and keep commitments to ourselves, to walk the talk, to honor ourselves, and fundamental part of character, ethics, the essence of proactive growth. Effective management is putting first things first, while leadership decides what first things are. It is management that puts them first, day by day, moment by moment. Management is discipline, carrying it out. Discipline derives from disciple. Disciple is to follow philosophy. Disciple is to set a disciple to a set of principles, disciple to a set of values, disciple to an overriding purpose, to a superordinate goal, or a person who represents that goal. In other words, you are an effective manager of your own self. Let's leave it there. You are an effective manager of your own self. This is day number 112. Canadian Simba has been in the house for 112 days and counting, because In Halifax, Nova Scotia province of Canada, it appears that seniors are not appreciated. So they work hard all their lifetime, and then after they retire, Simba just phasing into retirement. After they retire, the social psychology we exploit in Halifax, Nova Scotia province of Canada, you notice that the seniors are very lonely. They're locked there. Even if they're in family, they're just I don't know. They don't involve. They some involved in society. Many of them are just in seniors' homes, and they're locked in there in whatever, in whatever floors, or even if the expensive ones are like that, they're worse. And all the ones that don't have services are just outside. They just hang out outside or whatever in the rooms or whatever. And they just do whatever they can. They just go for events if they can, or family, take them if there's family. In most cases, people who live a very individualistic life. So by the time they get to that stage of life, there's a lot of loneliness, a lot of this, especially in a place called Nova Scotia here in Halifax. Nova Scotia, even if we have departments of opportunity and social development, it doesn't mean that they serve everybody. Doesn't mean they serve everybody. They just serve whom they want. And the rest in this place called Canada and in North America, then they treat the ones that they don't like in whichever way that they don't like. See, but they're just treating themselves in the same way and compounding it for their own families and children and grandchildren forever. But you can't reason with fools, so what do we do? Why do we make the attribution error? All right, let's do this. Just make sure we're not making something called an attribution error. So far, we have seen a bias is the way we explain people's behavior. We often ignore powerful situations and situational determinants. Why do we tend to underestimate the situational determinants of others' behavior, but not of our own? All right, there's an activity there, but we'll skip the activity because we ain't got time. But anyway, I'll just go through this quickly. It says, how do we assess people's traits? There's a demonstration here about John Stewart of Daily Show in USA, and it runs about his character. And it says, you say you tick for yes, tick if he's serious, if he's subjective, if he's future-oriented, if he's energetic, if he's fun-loving, if he's analytical, if he is present-oriented, if he's relaxed, etc., etc., etc. So that's character aspects. And then it says here, now go back and count the number of times you circled depends on the situation. There was a column here for depends on the situation. So that's a whole column you can see here, depends on the situation. And it says how many times for John Stewart, how many times you checked it for you? Are you willing to ascribe traits to John Stewart than yourself? Were you more likely to circle? Depends on the situation. If so, why? If so, it's probably because as the actor, you are better able to see the external factors that influence your behavior than you are able to see them for a celebrity or people in a community or society or family or whatever aspect of human social life. Okay, this is our history, is your history. And let's look at this. This talks about the introduction to Buddhism, teachings of history and practices of Buddhism. All right. This is about this is kind of tiny writing. It says predominantly. Is it predominantly or persuasively? Persuasively. All right. This is ideas. Okay. So persuasively. Let's talk about the persuasion. All right. Persuasively. Let's do that. You ready? Ready, good people? Let's go. Here we go. All right. Try and get this focus right so that you can read along here. Verify what I'm saying. Persuasively, this draws from the idea of, it's called emptiness. Emptiness inherent in existence or in nature. So in existence or nature, to argue the indifferences to the suffering of others, or suffering of self, or suffering of family, or suffering of human existence or experiences, absurd as indifferences to one's own suffering. Suffering is suffering, really, but we separate the suffering so that we feel privileged in our suffering, and we make others become something called subordinate to our own suffering, our own life experiences. So this gentleman argues that self and others are relative terms, like this bank and the future bank of the river. So it creates a separation in the mind of a person or society or culture and heritage, or in a family and relationship and things like that. Neither bank of itself is further bank. If one says that one should not protect another from pain and suffering, as it does not hurt them or oneself, then why does one seek to avert the pain of, or to bring positive benefits to oneself? Let's leave it there for now, okay? To oneself, okay? So that's it's about the idea of self and separation and connection of human experiences. So in a place like North America, in general, the idea of separation is emphasized a lot. It's about race, color, black, white, green, yellow, this, that, tall, short, rich, poor, homeless, without a home. So all these human differences are emphasized to create the concept of